also publish it in form of an article, in form of a book chapter, to inform other people out there, and they learn from us. Then I also want to talk about the awareness that many of us have been talking about. I don't actually want to mention the awareness that we are talking about. For me, I want to mention the conscientization. You see, awareness, you get to know, but you actually don't take action. Okay? You are aware about it. So what? So when we do what we call conscientization, we are aware of our situation, but we are now reawakened to take action and make things better in the university. When I looked at 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, when do these start? Okay, 25th in November to 10th December of a year, of any year. Okay, so those are many days, of course 16 days. But within those days, what have we done? And do we know how this whole thing started? How did the promoting of gender equality and prevention of gender-based violence begin? Of course, it all started by the United Nations Secretary General in some years back, I think around 2008, who said, no, we should stop gender-based violence. And they wanted to advocate for the rights of women, for the rights of men, because the rights of men and women are rights of everyone. Sometimes it is taken to mean that the rights, human rights, are rights of men, let me say that way. But they are also women's rights. So since we are all affected, we shouldn't remain silent. The policies that we come up with as a university, the systems that we come up with as a university should benefit all of us. Mr. DVC, I don't know where we are going to start from, but the earlier we implement this, the better. We have been silent enough. And we, as Dr. Ngabirano says, we are going to start small, but I want to point to the 3 things and summarize them the way I have said. Research, okay, the policy must be in place and not only shelved but also implemented, and we must conscientize our students on issues of gender-based violence all through. Not only conscientize, but also, you know, you look at the causes, the effects, so that they know. Because many of them may be, for example, in a hostel. If you are in a hostel, you need food, you need tuition. Sometimes the tuition is not there, you have been sent away, and you can't access the premises. What happens? Do you look for tuition elsewhere? No. Okay? So, but there are many things. You need, these are young people. And as young people grow up, we know what happens. They need to go to a good restaurant, and maybe the resources are not there. You need good jewelry, you need good clothing, you need everything. So there are so many push factors that may entice them into those kinds of activities that are not actually life-giving. Okay, thank you very much. I think I can end at that.
Thank you very much. Doctor, let's give her another hand clap. Thank you for amplifying some of these needs, and in the context where we work and live. You ended by saying that there are many things younger people want, but I think even other people want many things. It is a human nature that you keep wanting, but maybe the younger people may think that the only people want other things. Yeah. So, yeah, we are at this level where we are going to ask questions. We have our experts here. Want clarification. If there's something that you have ever feared to ask, it is now. If you don't want to ask it, it is now. If you want to ask it, is now. So we'll just allow questions. If you want to ask a question, even comments, but yeah, comments. Yeah, okay. You can supplement. You can say, no, I don't believe in this. Anything. We are here to learn because it is a day of activism. And we want to, by the time we leave this place, we don't want anyone to have any question about GBV. We must have all the answers in this room. So, who'd like to go first? Oh, you are here? Do I need to sanitize this? Yeah? I need to sanitize. Okay.
Thank you very much. All protocol observed. Let me first say this. They say 16 years of activism. Days, okay. I won a research grant on gender in 1990. I had not joined teaching at the university. So I've had these two doctors. And I did my master's dissertation was on gender. I understand gender very well. So I want to make some comments. One, gender-based violence does not mean violence against women. Gender means what refers to the two sexes. So gender violence can be even against men. But when I have heard, it seems I've heard the sermon against violence against women. And actually, by the way, I might get annoyed and review the sexual harassment. I personally, in 2010, I was teaching at Chambogo University. I was teaching an evening program. A girl came putting on trousers. Says, teacher, I want to ask you questions. I said, well, you can ask me questions. Says, no, take me to a room of your choice. Then I will ask you questions. I said, what is this? I failed to answer the questions because by that time I was teaching in different universities. Actually, I was teaching at in Mbarara. I would teach at Islamic University. At night I would move to Mbarara, and during the day, after teaching, I would come to teach at Chambogo. So I was tired. I could not answer the questions. Even here, I must be open. There is a girl I was teaching. She was ever smiling. And at one time I would teach. And sometimes it seems I've got some tone of teaching. I would teach. One time I was teaching, I saw her doing this. I said, what is this? No, I could not forget. But she did not give up. The next time she found me in the room, I alone. She told me, I have done what a woman can do. What did I do to you? I said, you are my student. He said, are you my father? Am I people? So, be careful when you are talking about gender. When you are talking about gender, or whether you are saying sexual harassment, we are also being harassed, men, and for you, you talk about saying that it's only women who are being harassed. Coming back to gender violence. Violence does not mean only sexual harassment. It means something which has emerged of recent, where both men and women kill, abuse, do bad things against each other. And when she was talking about, when they were doing a debate, they said, according to the report which I read, 2016, they were talking about violence. These days, women kill men more than men killing women. It is there. And for them, when they plan the action, you cannot survive. Women these days are not the only one. Anyway, I have done enough research. Okay, what you tell me? Anyway, I even listened to the debate. The debate when I used to be a Marxist, which I mastered anyway. I mastered Marxist philosophy, and I have turned against it. The debate which was here is what we used to call metaphysical reasoning, which means that you must either side with one side. To me, I am not saying women are responsible for their being, but they are not immune either. I want to make a conclusion saying it is the situation brought about by the forces of so-called modernization, which I have written a philosophy on, which is barbarism, which has eaten. It is barbarism, and I have got concrete evidence, impeccable evidence, that what they call modern civilization is actually barbarism. Even the law, which you say, which is guiding this what debates, was written by barbarians. They call them the Roman Empire. They call them barbarian codes. These are the laws which we use now. You must defend yourself. I have got concrete evidence. So what I'm saying, what is bringing all this is cultural erosion. And to quote Professor Kanyandagu, when the culture is, the more things fall apart. Things are falling apart because the code that used to bind us together was eaten up by the so-called forces of modernization, which is teaching us gender equality. Originally, I a Sarongo. Can I think of killing my Narongo? But these days it is happening. Why? Money, greed, which is brought about by barbarism. I thank you.
We thank him in the hand clap. And I think there is no...
Thank you very much. My name is Deogracias Matovu. I am a lecturer in the Faculty of Social Sciences. I want to clarify and talk about issues of gender-based violence in line to what Professor Byekwas has said. It is true, gender-based violence is not violence against women, but it is violence against all genders. But the reason as to why we say, or rather why what Professor Byekwas has said, that a number of people think that it is violence against women, it is because the men have been the biggest perpetrators. Right from the beginning, even when we look at our cultures, the way they have been made, the way they have been in a kind of masculine, everything, you look at the books, it is only now that things are beginning to change, that now you have to make these things gender balanced. The books are writing that then man says when they mean human being. You look at the Bible itself, it is saying the woman must be submissive. Submissive in what? In everything. Including forcing you to have sex when you don't want. And many other things. You look at the cultures. In my culture, in the past, a woman is not supposed to eat proteins, like protein sources like chicken, eggs, grasshoppers. But the woman needs them more than even the man, because she's the only one who has that, who can be pregnant, and she's 2 in 1, and she needs them more. All these. So it is because, Mr. Byekwas, it is because the men have been the biggest perpetrators. It becomes difficult for us to accept. In fact, as men, we think when these things are being put to equality, they are taking away our rights. You get me? And we feel insecure. But however, still, because of this call for equality, which is calling, Professor is calling barbarism, we have failed also to understand, I mean the women, the female gender, we have failed to understand that calling for equality doesn't mean that it is high time now we revenge. They have beaten us for a longer time. You get me? We all don't understand. The equality we don't understand. Being equal doesn't mean that now I can now also beat you. I can now also harass you. So these 16 days of activism, they are really very good for sensitizing. And as the university, like Dr. Nakijoba said, we really need to put up this awareness. And it all begins from the universities. In most of the urban areas, there's a lot of some kind of sensitization. And even when you go in rural areas, there is some kind of sensitization, mostly by the NGOs. But the universities are ideally meant to be the light of the nation. Things ought to begin from us. A mere teaching gender studies at the university may not be enough, because in most cases, we only teach it for the students to pass. But what is deep in the rural areas if you have to become change makers?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, all protocol observed. As the student representative in this very program, we appreciate the fact that we are on a day that might make history for the next generations of universities or of the students at Ntejo University. But we've all seen that the causes of this, we're talking about how we are going to make policies about gender-based violence, but we are neglecting how we shall curb down the causes of this very weed or this very parasite. If we are to talk about maybe what drives students to actually put themselves in those situations, then what are we putting up to make sure that students do not find them in such situations where they need to do such things? If it's about economic, or if it is about marks, can we get away that as students, we are empowered maybe to be entrepreneurs, looking at empowering women economically as a way of stopping this very thing? I believe that if we look for a way, the sustenance of this program is that we look for a way that the very causes of gender-based violence do not keep reoccurring. Otherwise, we shall just keep nursing the wounds, but we won't prevent the very act. So I was saying that in this policy, or in this, as we have the AR here, maybe if we are to do a curriculum that involves us being empowered in the areas that are causing us to be violated against, then it would be more sustainable even for the people who will come after us. Thank you.
Okay, there is a younger thought and the challenge, and I think the AR has listened, like all of us, that we don't just talk about it, but find a way of how one can, avoid it. And before I allow him, I think in psychology, when you are growing up, there's that balance of the ego, the id, and super ego. That there are things that, for example, there are wants you need to feel. First, say you are hungry and you see food, so the need is that you should eat, but then you should eat in a way that is accepted in society. So if it's not they're not your bananas, because you are hungry, you're not justified to go and eat. So there is always that balance, and okay, they talk a lot about it as you grow, that if you have a perfect balance, then you not do things because you want, but you do them in a way that is accepted, the morality bit of it. And I pray that also this happens, that even when you want something, you don't go grabbing and what, but you also try to acquire these things in a way that is morally, culturally, and socially accepted. Yes.
Thank you. Praise God. All protocol observed. I first had to salute the Almighty God and then everyone around here. I am Edema Michael, a student of Makerere University, and I'm so glad that I'm also included in this good meeting that we are having, talking about the gender-based violence. Now, before we bring in policies, we discuss a lot of things. Are we understanding the meaning of gender? And are we understanding the changes that are in gender right now? Because you can sit here and do whatever policies you are doing, but then after 10 years, you come to understand that the policies we did before we did deeper study of the gender, again bringing more harm than good. What am I talking about? Today, it is very difficult to ask a gender of any person. If I may ask, who is a woman? And who is a man? And now if we are talking about gender, what is gender? According to what we are seeing today, you will find people who will identify themselves as non-binary gender. And you find that person dressed in a male clothes, but identifying as a what? As a woman. Now, if such cases arise in the university, and here we are putting up policies, guarding gender and, helping out all gender, but then are we also putting in mind that in case such a thing arises in our mighty university, what shall we do? Okay? So we must also think about that. Now, my brother here talked about the issue of the erosion of culture, which is so common today, that the root cause of everything, all the violences that are happening, are the erosion of the culture of that basic place that we are living in right now. As we see Africans, we are perhaps jumping on the tractor which is going somewhere that we don't understand where it is going. But for us, we are also following the suit. We must be conscious where we are going. Some of the funders of these new policies, we must be cautious about them. And then we must know, are these for the benefit of our generation, of our people? Will it keep our generation or not? So we should be keen about that. A question that I wanted to pose.
Yeah, please.
Okay. One question. Now, if you find that a person who is harassing a student is in higher powers, and then perhaps there's a clique, let me give an example of a university. You find a clique of...
the experts here will help us. What do you do? Is lower. The others...
I think I'm interested in answering, first of all, the question that it asks us whether we understand gender. You see, sometimes gender is confused with the sex. Sex is the biological and physiological makeup of a person. You have breasts, you have beards, you're a man, you have, those physiological parts of the body, okay? But when we talk about gender, we are talking about the roles, we are talking about the responsibilities, we are talking about the opportunities accorded to men and women in society. Now, the people you are talking about who are maybe, for example, gay, lesbian, we first see you as a human being, irrespective of what you do. So that's why we say GBV is a violation of human rights. Okay? You are a human being first, so you have rights. That is what we are talking about. I don't know whether I've tried to answer you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, my sister. And I think I will start from clarifying the spelling in my name. It is in Sibirano, not in Gabirano, but the same family. And then I will say, yes, I agree with the definition of gender and that how different it is from sex. And I think that is where we also have to start from. But taking on from what Michael has said, Michael wondered whether we even know how gender is progressing, gender is developing. Many times, because we do not understand the meaning of gender, that's when we talk about gender issues, or we invite the public to come for such a very educative seminar, the female will come in big numbers. Sometimes the males will come in smaller numbers. Why? Because they will think that when we are talking about gender issues, we are talking about women's issues, and that is an error that we need to correct. And where are these approaches going to take us? Yes, we start usually in such environments, we start with raising awareness. And fortunately, all of us in Ndeje know that we have an equilibrium that has been tilted, where we have had very many opportunities, very many chances, benefiting the males more than the female. And we think that that is unfortunate. Why? Because when we have gender equality, all of us, and when I talk about all of us, I will include the age, the young and old. I will include the sex, the male and female. Fortunately, and I thank God for that, in Uganda we are still very conservative. I want to believe so. We are still in the binary. You are either male or female. We have not yet embraced what I still, please don't quote me, what I see is abnormal. You cannot be a man and yet feel like you're a woman. You cannot be a woman and yet feel like you are. So that is a blessing we still have, and I'm very happy that we still believe God has created us male and female. Therefore, when we have talking about issues of gender equality, the men and the women benefit. Possibly the man would be your brother or your father, and when you are doing well, when you have achieved success, when you have access to the same services, when you have access to the same opportunities like your brothers or like your sisters have, everybody will benefit and everybody will enjoy. So when we start with awareness, knowing that there is inequality and that inequality is unfortunate, then we should look at transformation. We want to empower, but we also want to create an environment that is going to enable us to transform from the negative issues in our cultures, in our customs, our social norms that accord more privileges to one gender against the other, so that all of us can have equal access and equal benefit. So once we reach that, we'll be enjoying transformation. That's an approach that at Ndeje University we should be looking towards, so that in the future students or public seminars, we now go beyond awareness and work towards having strategies to transform our environment for a gender inclusive and empowering environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are going to allow 2 younger people, and we are in gender. So we have the male gender, and shall are you female? Yeah, because of time, yes. Yeah, and please make it a quick question so that, yeah.
Thank you, Chair, for this meeting. It's really a pleasure. My name, Magola Arnold. I'm a student at Ndeje University, doing Bachelor's of Education. It's a pleasure that we are having most of the top management of our institute. I'm a student leader, and this is something that we have always wanted to talk about with you. We normally get less time to meet you, so I have some points to put across to you, our heads of the mighty university. First and foremost, I've been interacting with many students, and there is what we call lecturer and students gap. Lecturer and students gap, whereby students know that I have to come to class, lectures, go home. studying is beyond lectures. We have students who need female lecturers to talk to. It's really unpleasing, whereby, for example, I got a girl who called me around midnight, and she was like, Arnold, you are our leader. I was, you know, exposed to such and such a thing. Then I was like, but the university has offices which are accessible, only to find out that these offices are not accessible. Your students, your students, we are looking for you. Make us like with the lecturers, we are only there for lectures. Then I need that extra time, whereby after the classes, maybe after the lecture, I can tell you, we go through a lot. We have friends on our platforms who are quitting education because they have been going through a lot and they don't have anyone to talk to. That's a lot of violence. We are being exposed to that. Secondly, which is lastly, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, when we talk about gender-based violence, and I thank all the dear professors and doctors, the way you are addressing us, we are learning, and we are promising you that the community is going to be a better place after us. But we should also put in our minds that, because if we gather here right now, we will talk and everyone leaves. But it will be more effective if the university doesn't stop here. We don't stop on this. You had a meeting, what did you discuss? We need to see implementation from today, because a lot of students, I'm a student leader, they need you. You will hear stories and cry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Philippa Aebar. I'm a student pursuing a bachelor's in electrical engineering. Main campus, Philippa Aebar, bachelor's in electrical engineering. To comment on what he has said, and I also beg to say that maybe that issue has been exaggerated so much, just like earlier in the debate. Okay, I believe, yes, the university in forms of administration, there are some issues that are not being addressed as to how we students want them to be addressed. But for the issue of violence, let's say maybe girls being violated by the lecturers, like one of the speakers had earlier said, no, maybe you are going to be maybe rotated around because this and this has been violated. So I beg that we do not put the blame on the institution, but maybe encourage the students that have been violated to feel free and approach the administration, maybe by all forms, by email, or maybe go to the lecture, go to the people responsible, but not you fully assuming that the administration is not fully around to attend to our issues as far as sexual harassment are concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kajo. Just in response to Arnold Magola, one of the student leaders, we have interacted with very many on such issues, and what I want to tell him that is our office is very open. The challenge with some of these students is they don't know who to confide in, just in case they have some of those issues. But just like the former student, the student who was on the floor said, our offices are there and they are very open. You are most welcome at any time and come and tell us some of these things. Some of you are shy and do not want to come and share experiences with us or what you are going through. But like she said, there are very many platforms you can use to tell us some of this information. You can send us emails and we shall respond immediately. We work hand in hand with the Office of the Chaplaincy, who can also be of assistance in such cases. For example, in my office, since I'm their agent, you may find that a certain student, a girl, may not feel free to come and tell me an issue that he or that she is going through. But you can find any other office. You can go to the medical center. We have their counselors who are ladies, and they can assist you. Then that information will come to our office, and we shall address it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Esther Namayanja. I rarely talk, but I've been touched by the stories and what comes to my office about the gender-based violence. Sometimes when people come complaining, what we tell them is not what they want to hear. They always have an alternative. You advise a student that you're supposed to pay for a retake, and the student is not willing to take up a retake. You see, as want to offer 1 million, but a retake is close to 500 or less. And then you advise the student, no, read and understand. You failed because you didn't read. You need to understand this content. So we, as the managers of the university, we are working very hard to sensitize students, to empower them that you must do ABCD. Some of us, you see, boys are just sent at the university with nothing